Welcome back. You are listening to the home of forbidden romances. Prepare yourself, because tonight's story will leave you breathless. Steel-kissed skin. The blade didn't tremble, even though the hand holding it belonged to a man shaking with a decade of suppressed rage. Rain lashed against the bamboo roof of the dilapidated tea house, drowning out the world, but inside, the silence was deafening, heavy enough to crush lungs. "Look at me," the man in the obsidian armor commanded, his voice a low growl that vibrated through the floorboards. The scholar kneeling before him did not look up. His white robes were stained with mud and cheap wine, his long, ink-black hair hiding a face that had once launched 1,000 ships and burned down just as many cities. I said, "Look at me, Lin Yuchen." When the scholar finally raised his head, the lightning outside illuminated a face pale as bone, eyes dull and hollowed by years of hiding. But even in this wretched state, ruined and destitute, he possessed a haunting beauty that made the general's heart twist in his chest, a jagged mix of hatred and undying desire. "General Han," Lin Yuchen whispered, his voice raspy, like dry leaves skittering over stone. "You found me. Did you think you could run forever?" General Han Shao pressed the sword tip harder, drawing a single bead of crimson blood from the scholar's porcelain neck. "Did you think I would forget how you gutted my heart and left me for dead in the ashes of the imperial city?" "I hoped," Lin Yuchen said softly, closing his eyes as if welcoming the execute. "I hoped you would hate me enough to forget." Han Shao laughed, a terrifying, broken sound. He sheathed the sword with a violent clack and grabbed Lin Yuchen by the jaw, forcing him to stand. "Forget? I will make sure you never forget again. You belong to me, Lin Yuchen. In this life, and in the hell that follows." The journey back to the capital was a blur of misery and cold iron. Lin Yuchen was not treated as a former prime minister or the emperor's once-favored strategist. He was treated as a prisoner of war. Shackled inside a carriage with barred windows, he watched the passing landscape, the very empire he had sacrificed everything to save, with a detached sense of sorrow. Han Shao rode alongside the carriage, his imposing silhouette visible through the slats. The war god of the north. The man who had conquered the savage tribes and brought peace to the realm. The man Lin Yuchen loved more than his own soul. 10 years ago, they had been inseparable. Fire and ice. The general and the strategist. They had sworn an oath under the peach blossom trees to change the world together. But politics is a blood sport, and when the late emperor demanded a scapegoat for the failed campaign in the south, Lin Yuchen had made a choice. He took the blame. He fabricated evidence of his own treason, painting himself as a villain who sold secrets to the enemy, all to ensure Han Zhao's reputation remained spotless. He had fled, leaving Han Shao with a broken heart and a pristine career. He thought he was being noble. He thought he was being a martyr. But looking at the cold, ruthless man riding beside him now, Lin Yuchen realized his mistake. He hadn't saved Han Shao. He had destroyed the boy he loved and created a monster in his place. They arrived at the general's manor as dusk fell, painting the sky in bruises of purple and red. The servants lowered their heads, trembling as Han Shao dragged Lin Yuchen out of the carriage and into the main hall. "Take him to the West Pavilion," Han Shao ordered the guards. "Lock the doors. If he steps 1 foot outside, execute the guards on duty." "Han Shao," Lin Yuchen said, his voice weak. The journey had drained his already failing health. "There is no need for chains. I have nowhere left to go." Han Shao turned, closing the distance between them in 2 long strides. He loomed over the smaller man, his eyes burning with a terrifying intensity. "You are a liar, Yuchen. You lie with every breath. You said you loved me, then you left. You said you were loyal, then you sold us out. Why should I believe you now?" "Because I am dying," Lin Yuchen said simply. The air left the room. Han Shao froze. For a second, the mask of the ruthless general slipped, revealing the terrified boy underneath. But it was gone in an instant, replaced by a sneer of disbelief. "Another scheme? Another ploy to lower my guard, so you can slip away into the night? I'm not the foolish youth who worshipped you anymore." "Believe what you wish," Lin Yuchen murmured, a coughing fit taking over his chest. He covered his mouth with a handkerchief, and when he pulled it away, he quickly folded it to hide the flecks of blood. But Han Shao, trained to notice the slightest movement of an enemy, saw the stain. He grabbed Lin Yuchen's wrist. What is that? The damp air. It does not agree with me. Lin Yuchen lied, pulling his hand back. Han Xiao stared at him, his jaw working. Get out of my sight. 3 days passed in silence. The West Pavilion was luxurious, filled with silk and jade, but it was a prison nonetheless. Lin Yuchen spent his days staring at the garden, watching the winter plums struggle to bloom against the frost. It was a fitting metaphor for his life. He knew he didn't have long. The technique he had used to fake his treason, the soul-severing curse, was not merely a political maneuver. It was a dark art. To make the lie believable to the emperor's truth-seers, he had to physically sever a part of his own cultivation core and bind it to the lie. The cost was his life force, slowly draining away like sand in an hourglass. On the 4th night, the door to his chamber burst open. Han Xiao stood there, smelling of strong wine and rain. He looked disheveled, his top knot slightly askew, his eyes wild. Why? Han Xiao demanded, stumbling into the room. Lin Yuchen set down his brush. He had been writing a letter, a final confession he intended to leave behind. He quickly covered it with a blank sheet. General, you are drunk. I am sober enough to know that I hate you, Han Xiao slurred, moving toward the bed where Lin Yuchen sat. He grabbed the scholar by the shoulders, his grip bruising. I hate that after 10 years, the moment I saw you, I still wanted to fall to my knees. Why do you have this power over me? You are a traitor. You are scum. I know, Lin Yuchen whispered, his heart breaking with every word. I am sorry. Sorry. Han Xiao laughed bitterly. He pushed Lin Yuchen back against the pillows, climbing over him, pinning him down with his heavy body. The intimacy was suffocating, electric. You destroyed me, Yuchen. I spent 10 years building an empire just to have the power to hunt you down. And now that I have you, I don't know whether to kill you or... He didn't finish the sentence. He crashed his lips against Lin Yuchen's. It wasn't a kiss of love, it was a punishment. It was teeth and desperation, a violent claiming of territory. Lin Yuchen didn't fight back. He lay there, accepting the anger, accepting the pain, tears leaking from the corners of his eyes into his hair. He loved this man. He had loved him enough to die for him. And if being the vessel for Han Zhao's hatred was the only way to be close to him again, then he would accept that too. Han Xiao pulled back, panting, his forehead resting against Lin Yuchen's. He tasted the salt of the scholar's tears. Why didn't you fight me? Han Xiao whispered, his voice trembling. Why don't you ever fight back? Because the sword is already in your hand, Han Xiao. Lin Yuchen replied softly, reaching up to touch the general's face with a trembling hand. Strike true, if it brings you peace. Han Xiao recoiled as if burned. He scrambled off the bed, staring at Lin Yuchen with horror. You drive me mad. He fled the room, slamming the door behind him, leaving Lin Yuchen alone in the dark, clutching his chest where the curse was tightening its grip, turning his veins to ice. The collapse happened 2 days later. Han Xiao was in the main hall, discussing border skirmishes with his lieutenants, when a servant rushed in, pale and breathless. General, the prisoner, Master Lin. He has collapsed in the garden. He won't wake up. Han Zhao's cup shattered in his hand. He didn't issue orders. He simply vanished, using his qin gong to fly toward the West Pavilion. He found Lin Yuchen lying in the snow beneath the plum tree. The white of the snow, the white of his robes, and the white of his skin blended together, making him look like a ghost already fading from the world. Only the shocking splatter of blood on the snow beside his lips offered any color. Yuchen, Han Xiao roared, scooping the frail body into his arms. He was lighter than air. Get the physician. Now. He carried him inside, kicking the door open. He placed Lin Yuchen on the bed and immediately placed his hand on the scholar's back, pouring his own robust spiritual energy into the man's meridians. But it was like pouring water into a cracked cup. The energy dissipated instantly. General, the imperial physician arrived, breathless. He rushed to the bedside, checking pulses and lifting eyelids. His expression grew grave. He turned to Han Xiao, fear in his eyes. General, stop transferring energy. It's useless. Do not tell me what is useless. Han Xiao snarled, sweat beading on his brow as he doubled his efforts. Save him. I cannot save a man who has no core, the physician shouted back. Han Xiao froze. The flow of energy stopped. What? His golden core? It shattered. Not recently. Years ago. The physician's hands shook as he examined the meridian points. General, look at this mark on his chest. Han Xiao ripped open the front of Lin Yuchen's robes. There, directly over his heart, was a black, spiderweb-like scar. It pulsed with a faint, necrotic energy. The soul-severing curse, the physician whispered, horrified. This is a forbidden technique. It binds a lie to the soul. If the user speaks the truth of the event they covered up, the curse kills them instantly. If they don't, it slowly eats their life force over a decade. He has been dying for 10 years. Han Zhao's world tilted on its axis. The roar in his ears was louder than any battlefield. The lie. 10 years ago. The treason. Lin Yuchen had admitted to it swiftly, without defense. He had severed his ties with Han Xiao publicly, brutally. He didn't betray me, Han Xiao whispered, the realization hitting him with the force of a battering ram. He saved me. The emperor wanted my head for the failure in the south. Yuchen. He took the blame. He used the curse to make the lie truth, so the imperial seers would believe it. Han Xiao looked down at the unconscious man. The hatred that had fueled him for a decade evaporated, leaving behind a chasm of grief so deep it threatened to swallow him whole. He couldn't tell me, Han Xiao realized, his voice breaking. If he told me, the curse would have killed him. So he let me hate him. He let me hunt him like an animal. General, the physician said softly. He is ours. Maybe less. The curse has reached his heart. Fix it, Han Xiao commanded, tears streaming down his face openly now. Break the curse. The only way to break a soul-severing curse is for the beneficiary of the lie to realize the truth fully and accept the transfer of the backlash, the physician explained. But General, the backlash of 10 years of suppression. It will shatter your cultivation. You will lose your powers. You might become an invalid. You are the war god of the empire. You cannot. I am nothing without him. Han Xiao roared. He climbed onto the bed, pulling Lin Yuchen's limp body against his chest. Get out. But General, get out. When the room was empty, Han Xiao held Lin Yuchen close. He brushed the hair away from the scholar's cold forehead. You stupid, arrogant fool, Han Xiao sobbed into his neck. You thought you could decide everything for us. You thought you could protect me from pain by giving me hatred instead? You are the smartest man in the empire, and yet you know nothing of love. Lin Yuchen stirred slightly, his eyes fluttering open. They were hazy, unfocused. Han Xiao, I'm here, Han Xiao said, gripping his hand. I know, Yuchen. I know everything. I know you didn't betray me. I know you did it to save me. Lin Yuchen's eyes widened in panic. He tried to speak, to deny it, because he feared the curse would trigger. He began to cough, blood spilling from his lips. Hush, Han Xiao soothed, placing his palm over Lin Yuchen's heart, directly over the black scar. Don't speak. It's my turn to save you. No, Lin Yuchen wheezed, tears slipping down his temples. Your cultivation. The empire needs you. Let them burn, Han Xiao said fiercely. Let the empire turn to ash. I don't care about history books. I don't care about glory. Some people seek power, Yuchen. But some people you can only love. And I have loved you every second of every miserable day we were apart. Han Xiao closed his eyes and ignited his golden core. He didn't draw energy from Lin Yuchen. He pushed his own soul into the curse, attacking the black web binding his lover's heart. The pain was blinding. It felt like being flayed alive. It felt like his bones were turning to powder. The backlash of the curse roared like a dragon, seeking to devour the intruder. Han Xiao screamed, a guttural sound of pure agony, but he didn't let go. He poured everything he was, his strength, his memories of their youth, his rage, his love, into the bond. Take it, he demanded of the curse. Asterisk, take my power. Take my title. Give me back his life. Asterisk. The room exploded in blinding white light. Winter melted into spring. The rumors in the capital were wild and varied. Some said General Han Xiao had ascended to the heavens. Others said he had died of a sudden illness. The emperor appointed a new general, and the world kept turning. High in the misty mountains, far from the intrigues of the court, a small bamboo cottage sat nestled among peach blossom trees. Han Xiao sat on the porch, peeling a persimmon. He moved slower now. His movements lacked the lethal grace of a warrior. His cultivation was gone, his meridians empty. He was, for the first time in his life, an ordinary man. He heard footsteps behind him. He smiled. Lin Yuchen stepped out onto the porch, holding 2 cups of tea. He looked healthier now. His cheeks had color, and his eyes were bright. But there was a vacantness in them that hadn't been there before. The curse had been broken, but the price had been exacted. To survive the separation of the curse, Lin Yuchen's mind had wiped the slate clean. He remembered how to read, how to write, how to brew tea. But he did not remember the court. He did not remember the treason. And he did not remember Han Xiao. Here you are, Lin Yuchen said with a polite, gentle smile, handing him the tea. The physician said you must keep warm. Your joints still ache when it rains. Sometimes, Han Xiao said, taking the cup. His fingers brushed Lin Yuchen's. I still feel as though I know you from a dream, Lin Yuchen mused, sitting beside him, looking out at the falling petals. It is strange. I have no memories of my past, yet when I look at you, I feel safe. Did we know each other well, before I fell ill? Han Xiao looked at the man he had sacrificed his godhood for. He looked at the face that no longer held the shadow of guilt or the weight of a ruined empire. He saw only peace. Han Xiao had lost his power. He had lost their shared history. He had to let go of the man who was his partner in crime, the strategist who knew his every thought. That man was gone, washed away by the trauma and the cure. But in his place was this gentle soul, unburdened and free. Han Xiao smiled, a genuine, soft expression that smoothed the hard lines of his face. He took a sip of the tea. It was sweet. Yes, Han Xiao replied softly. We knew each other very well. But that was a long time ago. Will you tell me about it? Lin Yuchen asked, leaning closer, his shoulder brushing Han Xiao's. No, Han Xiao said, reaching out to tuck a strand of hair behind Lin Yuchen's ear. That story is over. But I can tell you a new one. Oh. Lin Yuchen's eyes sparkled with curiosity. What is this one about? Han Xiao gazed at him with a love that had survived hatred, time, and the loss of self. It is about a soldier who laid down his sword, Han Xiao said, so he could finally hold the hand of the one he loved. And as the peach blossoms fell around them like pink snow, the general who was no longer a general, and the strategist who had forgotten his strategies, sat in silence, learning to love each other for the very first time, all over again. And that is how the wolf surrendered his teeth to save the lamb. If you enjoyed seeing Han Xiao burn the world down for love, destroy that like button. And tell me in the comments, would you choose to remember a painful love, or forget it all for a peaceful life? I'll be reading your answers. Subscribe for the next chapter. Until then,